Today on Your Technology Questions Answered, I've got a dozen tips and tricks on how to lower your computer's carbon footprint and save you a lot of cash. So stay tuned to Your Technology Questions Answered. Welcome to another episode of Your Technology Questions Answered, and I am your host, Steve Smith, aka Z-Axis, and yes, you may call me that. We are July 3rd, 2011, and we are episode 40. We're going to be helping you reduce your carbon footprint, at least that of your computer, and save you a lot of cash. And I've got 12 tips and tricks on how to do that, all written on a piece of paper, and we're going to do something different today. The lower third on my screen will remain there as much as possible, at least that is the plan. And on the bottom of the lower third, if you follow along, the number of the tip and the tip itself will be on the bottom of the screen. So how about we get to these 12 tips that will save you money and lower your computer's carbon emissions. So let's start with tip number 1. The most inanely logical point of view on anything: turn off your computer. Now, there's going to be somebody who says, but that's going to take a lot more power to turn it back on than leaving it on the whole time. And you would be what I like to call wrong. First of all, leaving your computer off for extensive amounts of time will actually save you more power than it costs to turn your computer on. The newer your computer is, the easier it is to start it up. Now, there's a bunch of people that are going to tell me that their computer takes a lot of power to turn on, and I will not believe you at all. Like anybody knows that actually knows what they're talking about when they're referring to electrical usage during startup, it is so minimal that it is not even worth your time to say that you're saving yourself money by leaving your computer on. Turn your computer off when it's not being used, and you will save money. The second thing is, if you're ever in the market for a new computer, is to buy yourself a laptop. It actually takes only 1/3 the power of a conventional desktop computer. Yes, 1/3 the power. This is because the pieces in the laptop are designed to be low powered to actually conserve battery life over a longer period of time. So logically, it makes sense. Why would you make a laptop that takes up a lot of energy when you can make a laptop that requires less energy, runs longer, and uses a smaller battery? So, if you're in the market for a new computer, get yourself a laptop. It will actually save you some money on your hydroelectric bill. Tip number 3 is to make your computer faster. The newer the pieces in your computer, the faster they run, the less time it takes to do tasks that you normally do, the longer you can leave your computer off. This means that you're going to be using your computer a little less. Yes, I know, but I can tell you from experience that if your computer does run fast enough, you're not going to sit in front of it the whole time trying to do the task that you were trying to do. Which brings us to tip number 4. Turn off your screen during processor-intensive activities. Some screens take a various amount of power. The one right in front of me takes 45 watts of power per hour. Now, if my computer runs for 2 hours during a processor-intensive activity, I'm saving myself 90 watts. So, during these processor-intensive activities, turn your screen off. It will actually save you a little cash. Now, tip number 5. Do not plug all your USB devices in simultaneously. Now, I know 1 or 2 won't make much of a difference, but if you've got a dozen USB devices plugged into your computer, chances are you're actually going to have to use one of these devices that allows you to plug in multiple USB devices outside your computer, but also they leach power continuously. So if you have any of these jump drives, Bluetooth chips, or anything that it plugs into your USB ports, unplug them and only plug them back in when you actually require them. Tip number 6. Enable sleep hibernation and hard drive power down modes inside your operating system. This will actually allow you to run your computer longer and allow it to actually go into either a sleep or hibernation mode, which also turns down the speed of the hard drive, saving you power. Tip number 7, lower your screen's brightness. The brighter the screen, the more power it takes to keep it that bright. Unlike the hard drive, where it actually takes more power to bring it back up to spin, leaving your screen brightness at maximum means you're using the maximum amount of energy required to keep that screen running. The lower the brightness, the better. So if you have it at a comfortable setting that's not too bright and you see everything, you're fine. Now, the only people that might want to have the screen as bright as they can are graphic artists. I can speak from experience because we want to do color matching. But besides that, the common user does not need the screen to be flashing so bright that it'll bring the boats in to dock right beside your house. There are specific types of programs that will have this. Some of the programs I have in my computer that are able to do this are those that actually do encoding of video, re-encoding of file formats, audio. Some other applications like defragmentation have a checkbox that says, check this box if you want your computer to be turned off when the tasks are finished. Check that in. If you're doing something that takes a long time to do, like a defrag, admittedly, if you follow the other tip, you would have turned off the screen. But what if your computer can just turn itself off after it's done? This means late at night, while the air is cool, you turn on the defrag, turn off the screen, go to sleep. When it's done, your computer goes off. You don't have to wake back up to turn it off. It'll just turn itself off. Now, if it doesn't exist in the application, my suggestion is to email the company that made the program in the first place, point out their short-sightedness, and ask them in the next version to add this option in. You'd be surprised how many people will bend to your will if you give them new feature sets that they can advertise. Tip number 9, actually. Purchase a UPS or a search bar that includes a master plug switch that turns off other ports on that plug or search bar or UPS bar when your computer is turned off or in hibernation. These other devices that you would plug in would be devices that would leach power while the computer's on or off, that you don't necessarily need to be on or powered all the time. Such devices would be external hard drives, printers, basically things like that. Even the desk lamp to your desk doesn't need to be on if you're not really using it. Tip number 10. I am sure a lot of you have MP3 players, iPhones, Blackberries, anything that has a USB port on it or a device that plugs into your computer. I'm well aware that you need your computer to charge these devices, but here's the thing. You can get yourself an AC to USB wall charger. This takes less power than turning on your computer to charge your devices. So, tip number 10. Consider getting yourself an AC to USB wall charger. It'll actually take less power off your computer and actually make you independent of the computer in the process. You won't need it anymore to recharge your devices. Tip number 11. Now, obviously, this might cost a little bit more money right now, but over time, it will actually pay itself off. If you have tasks that require a usage of a computer, but don't require a super fast processor, consider a netbook or a tablet. If you're doing some documents where you're editing, or that you're just checking out the spelling or reading some newspapers or whatever, you don't need to be using a laptop. You don't really need to be using a desktop. You can use a tablet or a netbook. These use significantly less power than a laptop, therefore they're a better choice for this, and because they take less power to recharge, it also saves you money because you don't need to turn on your desktop computer to read any of this, and your laptop will take a little bit more power than a tablet to recharge its batteries. Tip number 12. This is going to sound like your mother bitching at you, but respect your computer. And I'm serious. Respect your computer. The cleaner your computer box is on the outside and on the inside, The easier the fan spin, the more ventilation goes through, the less power is required to cool your box, your pieces inside and everything. The less power is being used by your computer to maintain a safe environment. What do I mean by this? All computers have thermostats on the hardware, including the processor, the motherboard, the graphics card, and the power supply in some cases. Basically these pieces. These pieces are sensitive to high temperature. If the intake of your computer box is full of dust, dirty beyond belief, and your computer can't breathe, it has to spin the fans faster to get more air to cool the computer, therefore costing you more precious electricity, raising its carbon footprint. So by cleaning it or respecting your computer, you'll lower the carbon footprint of your computer because your computer will be able to breathe easier. And that is something you should do anyway because it also protects the pieces on the inside of your box. So when you respect your computer, you're also saving the environment from unnecessary throwaways of circuit boards that contain lead, which are actually dangerous for the environment. So that's also a bonus. Another bonus is when you respect your computer, you don't have to throw the pieces out, which means the factories run less, which means they use less carbon emissions, meaning it costs your computer less emissions to be made. Therefore, you understand the point. If you have any suggestions, comments, questions, and or stories, you may email me at tqa@zaxis.net, post to my Twitter feed at zaxis. You may also contact us via our contact page at www.zedaxis.net, and you may follow us on our Facebook fan page at facebook.com/zaxisproductions. This is where I post the video for YouTube and the weekly episode every single week on this page for you to see. You can comment straight there on the page, add other video links as commentary to the information, share your stories, any information you want. The page is there for you. Now I've got about 5 dozen people on this, and I got some people already liking or checking out the information I'm putting there. I invite you all to come and see this. So the page for that is facebook.com/zaxisproductions. The links are also on my website and right below this video if you're watching it on YouTube. If you have a few extra minutes, I'd like to invite you to do the listener survey at www.zedaxis.net. On the left in the podcast bookmark, it will allow me to know my audience better, your likes and dislikes, and you can do it anonymously too. Thank you in advance, anyone who fills this out. Thank you. And as always, let's see you back here next week when I talk about Dropbox and encryption in next week's episode of Your Technology Questions Answered. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Don't forget to subscribe to my weekly show, and more importantly, stay safe and online. Goodbye.